What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to, I guess you all want me to call this driving tone, so that's what we're going to call it. I got to go run an errand. We're going to talk about some tone stuff. The question that we're going to answer today comes from the comments of this video. So next week, I will look in the comments of this video and I will get a question for next week. So if you have a guitar question, put it down there. Maybe we'll talk about it next week. So what we got this week is, first of all, dang it, it is hot as crap in here. Let's see, here we go. Hans wants to know, not that it would be a lengthy subject, but could we talk about guitar cables and how they affect the guitar signal? Lengthy subject. I see what you did there. I don't know. Could be 10 feet, could be 15 feet, could be 20 feet, could be all kind of lengths of subject, I suppose. But 18 and a half, that's the number you want to remember for this conversation. We'll get back to that in just a second. So we're going to talk about guitar cables. Okay. Sometimes I don't really prepare for these, so you just got to be ready. So a lot of people are going to think that guitar cables don't make a difference at all. A lot of people are going to say, well, yeah, I've been using my Pig whatever, or my Fender braided whatever, or they look at the package and it looks fancy, therefore it must be good, and they buy a guitar cable and there it is. That's that. Or they might, man, it is hot. 86 degrees and the humidity is not low. What are we talking about here? So basically, what I would like to kind of put out there is that the guitar cable is part of the guitar. It's not part of the amp. Here's why. When you put two strands of copper next to each other, in fact, we talked about this in the pickup making video last week. When you put two copper strands together and then you lay them next to each other over a long distance, what happens is you have something called capacitive loss, which means that the signal gets lost from one strand of wire to the other strand of wire. Now this can happen over a distance. The longer the distance, the worse it is. That's why a higher resistance pickup will have less highs, because the very first frequencies that go away are your high frequencies. So, as you can imagine, the same thing would happen with a guitar cable, because over a long distance, you've got these long wires that are laying next to each other over a long distance, and the same thing can happen. So, the longer your cable is, the more signal you're going to lose, or potentially, well, yeah, you're going to have more signal loss over a longer distance. We did a video a long time ago where we took a 500-foot cable and we hooked a guitar up to it, and then we hooked it up to an amp, and you could basically barely hear anything. Like, it just sounded like total mud. Obviously that's not a practical experiment. How much difference does it make on the length of a normal cable? Well, the math on it is about 18 and a half feet. So if you have a 10-foot cable, under normal circumstances with a good guitar and a good amp, you may not hear much difference unless you really have an ear for it. So if you have something longer than 18 and a half feet, that's the number where it starts to get where you can tell the difference more. Then you got to start thinking about it. So what is the spec that you want to look for? The spec is capacitance per foot in picofarads. So cheap cables are not even going to advertise this. They're going to be in the neighborhood of 50 to 80 probably picofarads per foot. And that's what your normal $25 or $30 cable at Guitar Center, your Fender stock cables, etc., that's what you're going to see. A very premium cable For example, the runway audio cable that we carry here at Dylan Talks Tone, actually they make it for us and ship it from there, but it's got our name on it and stuff. But it's a runway audio cable. It is 20 picofarads per foot. Now with a 15-foot cable, you plug that in, and let me tell you what it sounds like. It sounds like you had saran wrap wrapped around your amp, and then you took the saran wrap off. That's what it sounds like. I mean, it's that big a difference. Now, will you have the same result that I have? As always, this depends on other things in your signal chain. Okay? So, if you, let's say you have a 15 or a 20-foot cable, and you have a set of my pickups, and you're playing into a relatively decent quality amp, or a very, a decent quality modeler with, relatively low noise, any of the major stuff, and you switch from a Mogami, for example, to a runway audio, you're going to hear the difference. If you switch from a whatever those Pig Hog or any of that, I don't know, whatever those Snake, whatever, all that, those gimmicky ones, you're going to definitely hear a difference. Now, if you have a box stock Epiphone with humbuckers in it, with box stock everything, and you're playing into a Line 6 Spider Jam, you may not. Because you have to remember that the clarity is the first thing to go away. So if you have no clarity to begin with, or less clarity to begin with, everything's kind of a moving target, right? Then chances are you will not hear as much of a difference. If you are old and half deaf, you will not hear a difference. That sounds offensive, but really, as we age, all of us our hearing degrades over time, and we may not realize it. So the mean age, as in average, as in not meanie head, but like the mean age of viewers of this channel, you probably got some hearing loss. So will you hear a difference? I don't know. I know a lot of you have those runway audio cables because you bought them from us. I know, because we sell tons of them. And everybody says, yeah, they sound awesome, even people that are a little older. So it does make a difference. Now, how can you mitigate cable length? Remember we said at the beginning of this video, the beginning of this conversation, that the guitar and the cable are part of the same thing. You've heard me talk about this before, that the guitar is a passive instrument. So if we're talking about a non-active guitar, so no EMGs, no Fishman fluencies, so normal active guitar, everything after the pickups, any component that you add is going to take away from that signal up until the point of the first preamp. So you're constantly losing signal from the moment the pickup starts making sound, electricity, until the buffer on your TU3, until your first preamp, like a overdrive. It depends which the first thing is you have. The first buffered input now can amplify whatever it sees in front of it. That being said, if you've got a 20-foot cable that's crap, you've already lost all that signal, and now it's just amplifying crap. So it would behoove you, if you want the best tone possible and the most accurate tone possible, to have the best guitar cable possible with the lowest amount of picofarads per foot in front of the first buffer. So what I would do if I was you is I would grab a runway audio cable. Dude, people want to be dying young around here. You want to grab the best cable you can, in my opinion, in the best in the business is this runway audio stuff. Put it, and then put a buffered tuner at the front of your pedal board. Because as much as everybody wants to talk about true bypass, Now you just have a long cable that goes all through all of your cables, then through your other cable to your amp. So you really want to have an amplifier at the beginning of your pedal board, which is a buffer. So the best case scenario would be really good pickups, really good cable, high quality buffer at the front of your pedal board. Your pedal board with high quality patch cables, so you're not losing signal and having all kind of issues there. We also have those, by the way, Runway Audio stuff on our site. You can buy them, and actually you can make them yourself too. We got some make them yourself kits. And that's what I would do. And then you have the cleanest signal possible. That would be the best package that you could probably put together to make all of that happen. So yeah, cables make a huge difference. They can. And I know that there's going to be somebody in the comments. They're going to be like, yeah, but I have this cable and it sounds fine. It probably does. So if it sounds fine to you, then it sounds fine to you. It's okay. The other thing is that if you have what you think is a fancy cable, go and look. Megami, for example, has an excellent marketing program, but their cables aren't as good as Runway. They're not. They don't have the lowest picofarads per foot in the business. They are not built as well, etc., etc., etc. They just have a better marketing program. So that's that. We used to make cables, and I had to quit because we didn't have the room. And then the next thing you know, I didn't have anybody to recommend until I met Austin at Runway, and now I can recommend those. Yes, we do have an affiliate thing. No, I did not plan for this to be an affiliate sort of video. It just sort of works out that way, and I can't recommend them enough. And again, everybody else in the comments, you'll know this. You have them. That has them. You'll love them. So there you go. Get in the comments. Ask a question for next week. Do me a favor, like and subscribe, and do all the things, and we will see you in the next video.